An insightful dive into the advancements in processing and payments within the digital era. It will cover how Ledger's innovative solutions are shaping the future of financial transactions, emphasizing security, efficiency, and user experience. But before we officially kick off the panel, I would like to express the gratitude of our esteemed sponsor, BestChange. BestChange.com, established in 2007, is a platform that enables users to quickly find vetted e-currency, crypto, and cash exchanges with the best rates. It also collects user feedback, giving an opportunity to make informed choices. BestChange.com knows where to exchange. All right, so the title of this panel is Exploring Processing and Payments in the Digital Era, and I would now, with great fanfare and lots of applause, invite onto the stage Sebastian BADAULT, VP Enterprise at Ledger, and Yusuf Al-Alami from Cointelegraph and Luna PR. Big round of applause, please. Folks, welcome. You made it. And they made it through the rain and they're looking good.
Thank you, thank you. Hey everyone, it's good to see the crowd here form. Sebastian, it's an honor to have you on the chat today.
And I'm happy to be here with the real warriors, because all you guys are the real warriors who braved like all the issues to get here today. So
yeah,
kudos to you all.
Just hearing a couple stories, some of the horror stories coming to the ear. But I'm glad you guys, everyone made it. Everyone looks healthy and safe. I want to start off with a very simple question. You are the VP of Enterprise, and you've worked for many years in some of the top enterprises in the world, like Google, Alibaba, Amazon. What does a day in the life of Ledger look like for you?
I mean, so I guess that it's very different from what I experienced in these other companies. I was at Amazon in '99, but when I joined, it was already a public company. It was much larger than Ledger was, and then we were working in a space that existed, right? So, you know, selling books or selling DVDs, people were doing that, right? There were like millions of books being sold every year, etc. And then the question was like, how much market share can we take? Whereas, you know, crypto feels like a space that we're creating from scratch. It's really something totally new. I mean, you could say that we're taking, you know, market share from the financial institutions, etc. But it really is something that has never been done before, so it's very different. And you know, the scale is different, and the pace is different as well. The one thing that is common though is bull and bear markets, because in 2000, like the internet bubble burst. I was at Amazon. The Amazon stock was at something $120, $130, went down to $5. At $5, anyone could have bought Amazon. I mean, it was worth maybe a few billion. It's now worth a few trillion. It would have been a really good investment if you made it back then. But so there was a bear market in e-commerce. People really asked themselves at one point, is e-commerce going to make it? Is it really something that can be sustainable? And obviously right now, even though there's still e-commerce companies that go down, you can see that it can work if it's done properly. So I think that my takeaway from that experience and going through it back then and going through it, having gone through it in the past couple of years, is that those are really interesting times, right? Like there are times where you can really, you have to make choices, because you could have 100 projects and you're not going to be able to do the 100 projects. You might be only able to do 5 or 10, so you have to make sure that you pick the right ones. And then execution becomes really paramount in everything that you do, because if you don't execute right, then you have limited amount of projects, and if you don't get them right, then you might fully fail and the company can go under. So I think it's obviously tough. Like I joined Ledger almost like 3 months before Terra Luna, so I basically went through that whole, all I lived through was that. And it's hard, but it's also an incredible learning experience. And I think the ecosystem and the space as a whole has gone through a big learning experience. It's not the first bear, but it was the biggest bear in some ways, because the ecosystem as a whole is much bigger than it was back in 17 or whatever. So very interesting, very challenging, but overall, I love to learn, and I definitely learned a lot in the past 18 months.
Fascinating, fascinating. I think one thing that I like about speaking with you today is that I personally have been in the Web3 space and working in it since 2016. I was in university. And so that's 8 years. And in 8 years, I feel like I've aged 20 years. But there are a handful of companies that have started before and as early as 2016 and have taken up a market share and stuck even till today and are dominating today, right? And one of the only reasons they're doing that is because the companies that survive for that long through those bears that you were talking about are the companies that are providing true value, and they see and they can foresee the next cycle and the next demand. Now, my next question is that being the vice president for institutions, and you're involved in a lot of the growth of Ledger as a corporation who has a huge dominance in the hardware wallets for the space. How do you see institutional level adoption coming into a space where the word custody is thrown around or non-custodial is thrown around like a buzzword?
So this year it's going to be a big year for Ledger. It's our 10-year anniversary, so we've been around for 10 years, and in the crypto space, there's not that many companies that have been around for 10 years. So definitely, it's a big year for us. It's also the year that we're going to be launching new hardware. We announced it a few weeks ago. We're going to be launching Ledger Stax in a few weeks now, like maybe months, but like not more than that. So it's coming, and we'll be notified. The ones that have been patiently waiting for it. And so, yeah, I think what's interesting is that when Ledger started 10 years ago, it was really just a cold storage wallet, and I think like most people for the first 5 years, if you bought a Ledger like 10 years ago to 5 years ago, a lot of people still think that all you can do with it is put your Bitcoin on it and then put it in the safe and then go get it if you need at one point or another. 5 years ago, we did two things which were visionary for the evolution of the company. The first one was to create Ledger Live, which is the platform that allows consumers to buy, sell, stake, swap, basically trade, do whatever they can with their ledger in a secure space. And then the second one was to start on our enterprise journey. And when we launched enterprise at first, it was really just to do security. And to your point, our first customers were exchanges or custodians, because Ledger is not a custodian. Right? We provide self-custody, but we're not custodians. But those companies had two big issues, right? One was that they were, they had a lot of funds, and when you have a lot of funds, you want to make sure that they're secure. We see a direct uptake between the price of Bitcoin and the number of hardware wallets that we sell, because if whatever you're holding is worth, $1,000, maybe you don't care, but if it's worth $100,000, you start caring. When we're talking about exchanges or custodians, we're not talking about hundreds of thousands, we're talking about hundreds of millions, $1 billion. So you want to secure that, and security becomes paramount. And the only enterprise grade security is what we do with HSM and everything that we put around it in terms of security solutions. So that was one. And then the second big thing, which I think leads me to where we are today, and which is really an interesting, and I don't know if you guys did that on purpose, but the speech just now really spoke a lot about, from BitMEX, was really a lot about what's happening today, is that governance is really key for people in the space. So for a custodian, obviously, because they're regulated, so they have to show their checks and balances. So what we offer on top of the self-custody solution is governance, and that's really, really important. And then the second thing is that now you have a slew of new entrants coming in through the ETFs, we'll talk about it, but asset managers who maybe hadn't pivoted towards crypto, and they are used to having the right governance, and so for them, it's kind of like, well, how do we do this? Like, they come to you asking you, how do I, whereas before we had to explain, no, it's very important for you to do governance. Now these guys know, like, they want to come in, they want to do governance. So it's a very different discussion that we have with them. And there's definitely like a major inflow. What we've seen is really two-pronged, right? The first thing is a lot of people from the Web3 space that had put a lot of their projects on the side, or were trying to cut investments and everything, are now coming back and thinking, okay, how do I do this right? how do I learn from what's happened in the past and make sure that there's no counterparty risk, that, you know, if regulation comes, I can actually show what I'm doing and show that I'm doing properly. And then the TradFi players coming in and wanting to do the same thing that they do, they're used to regulation, like, right? They're used to jumping through hoops or whatever. Now, our role is to make it as seamless as possible. We're really working and we're still working on that. Like, I don't know if there's any BADAULT customers in the audience, but it's not where I want it to be yet. It's gonna get there, but we're definitely trying to make it better every day. But it definitely answers a lot of what the market is looking for, that's for sure.
Absolutely, thank you for that. And just to simmer on the point of how important the differentiation between a custodial solution and a self-custodial solution or a non-custodial solution is, a lot of people in crypto, maybe some of you guys as well, might have an account on an exchange, but you don't have your own wallets or your own hardware, cold storage. I feel like all the value of Web3 and crypto in general eventually lands on the point of, and the question of custody. And Ledger is one of the very few companies that are leading in this very question. So yeah, for some of the conversation and the words that are going over your head, this is all extremely important stuff.
And then, and at the end of the day, it's about freedom, right? I mean, right now, you know, I still have, and this is crazy, you know, like this morning, I'm in Dubai, my bank calls me because I made a wire transfer and they want me to explain why, etc. And it wasn't even that much, it was like $2,000. And I'm like, this is my money. Like, why are you calling me, asking me why I made a wire transfer of $2,000? And then when I ask you something, you don't answer or you put me on hold for an hour. So I think what's been built, right, that incredible ecosystem is to also create this freedom, which comes with responsibility. The responsibility is that, yes, if you do self-custody and you have a cold storage wallet, which is the most secure solution, you need to remember your 24 words, yes, and it's your responsibility and nobody else's. But at the end of the day, you're then free to do whatever you want, right? And then to like send money to somebody else without anybody saying, hey, why did you send, you know, money to this guy over there, like for whatever reason. So I think that's really important. It is about freedom, and this is one of the things that really drew me to the space, is the fact that people, yes, there is speculation and there are people who want to make money, whatever, that's fine. But there are also people who fundamentally believe in what blockchain technology and what Bitcoin and what all these things are like bringing to just for us to be free. It's important. It's an important thing for human beings.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I feel like I could talk about this for a few hours, but I want to move on to my next question, which is you talk a lot about the dichotomy between self-custodial solutions and the responsibility of the freedom that it brings you, right? A lot of people also say that self-custodial solutions, if you have, you know, there's a famous saying, not your keys, not your crypto, right? So if you do have your keys and you do have your crypto, there's a lot of limitations when it comes to scalability, right? Or a lot of people say that at least. And this new life cycle for the industry for institutional adoption, scalability is a main priority for some of these companies. How do you think these institutions would address kind of the contradictory nature sometimes of a non-custodial solution and crypto adoption?
But when you say scalability, are you talking about the speed of transactions? Do you mean that if you have to sign every transaction and that takes time, etc.? Like, what do you mean by that?
I think I'm talking more about getting the true essence and the value of blockchain technology, which is security and speed as well, because speed is scalable. You can send $1 billion with Bitcoin much easier than you can send $1 billion through a bank, right? But I think just the best things that crypto brings without doing it through an exchange, right?
Well, I mean, that's what we're trying to build, right? Like we announced and we're doing POCs right now on especially on the trading side with TradeLink, which is really this idea of doing off-exchange settlement and trading, etc. So that there's no counterparty risk. Clearly, what's happened in the past year or the past year and a half is that, you know, people don't want to leave their money on exchanges. You know, and we saw it in the chart that was shown, right? Like the number of bitcoins that are right now on exchanges have dropped post FTX, post Luna, etc. And that's normal. And then at the end of the day, but you still want to have the liquidity and the speed of being able to trade. So that's the solution that we're trying to build, and that solution for it to work, has to be incredibly fast, has to be cheap. It has to bring a lot to, you know, asset managers, custodians, exchanges that want to like participate in that network. So that's exactly what we're building today. It's hard, but I think we have all the right tools to do it. And also this idea of like, you know, of us being a platform, of not being, you know, we want to, like everyone's invited to this party of this platform, right? Like you could be whatever asset managers, whatever custodians, I mean, we'll vet you and we'll make sure that like, but at the end of the day, anyone can like be part of it and the network effect will come from that. So that's what we're trying to build.
I do have at least one more question. We're talking a lot about institutional adoption for crypto, but I also want to touch on the point of governmental adoption for crypto, right? There's a certain type of institution, and we're seeing a lot of movement. I mean, we've seen a lot of it talk about ETFs for a long time now, but now we're seeing MicroStrategy, BlackRock, Vanguard, and all these multi-trillion-dollar companies, or at least multi-trillion in assets under management, issuing their own ETFs. And the thing is about ETFs is that at the retail level or at an institutional level, if you hold a Bitcoin ETF, you don't hold the keys to your Bitcoin, right? And so there's a lot of institutions that would rather have security through regulation rather than security through the technical availability of Web3. What are your thoughts on that? Is that going to change over time?
I mean, time will tell, but I think it's a great first step. I think what BlackRock is doing, and not just ETF, like what they did last week on tokenized securities, etc. I mean, I think that's super exciting. So we're really happy that they're doing that, and not just them, all the others as well. And I think it's the first step. I think you start, you know, maybe with an ETF, maybe then you'll go through an exchange, and then you'll end up doing self-custody. So I think it's just a journey. I've had a lot of conversations with people at hedge funds, etc., who tell me, hey, you know what? Oh, you're going to be happy. These are people that I've known for years, and they tell me, oh, you're going to be happy. We bought our first Bitcoin. Like, did you really buy Bitcoin? It's like, well, no, we bought the ETF. I'm like, well, you didn't really buy Bitcoin. Like, yeah, but it's still a bit complicated. I think what's going to come also is the solutions that we're building as an ecosystem is going to help them to get there. I think there's still blocking points because it's a bit complex. You have to make it easy for them. So the easier we make it, while allowing them to stay secure, etc., will get them there. So I think it's just a question of time. But I think all of these signals are incredibly positive for the market and for the ecosystem.
Absolutely, and I think you're absolutely right in the sense that people who first get into crypto, at least at the retail level, and at least over the last 5 years, they might have their first experience on an exchange or a broker, but eventually they move down, if they are serious, they move down to the cold storage route. So, like you said, you should give it time, and that might change. And with that said, unless you have any other thoughts,
no, thank you so much.
We're out of time, but I hope everyone enjoyed the talk, and thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Absolutely amazing. And you do not look like you aged 20 years. You're looking good. Okay, everyone. Sorry, guys. Get out of your way. All right, that was a fantastic testing. That was a fantastic presentation. Now we're up to, I can say, the blood sport of the afternoon here at Blockchain Live. Yes, it's a startup pitch contest. Many enter, one leaves. It's 100 games of blockchain. So ladies and gentlemen, the moment you've all been waiting for, actually, sorry, one pre-announcement. The front row is for judges and participants only. So front row is for judges and participants only. So kindly, if you're not a judge or participant and you're in the front row, like move back a row. Everyone good? Nope, yes, nope. Judges, yes. Okay, thank you. Thanks for the courtesy. Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, the moment you've all been waiting for has finally arrived at Blockchain Live. It's time for the Startup Pitch 2024. What a year. Where 16 innovative teams will take the stage to present themselves to you, our esteemed investors. So get ready to listen attentively, because